But yeah, you sounds good. You sound good. I'm gonna share my screen with you. Let me see if I can share the screen so we can talk about your book. Do you see it right there? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's your books. Hey, I pulled up something real quick on while we waiting. I was like just in the studio. I got a little video here that I would like to share with you. So you might seen it. You might seen it. This is
Yeah, I've seen it. That's for sure.
yes. Yeah, I was fascinated with aviation since a little kid. Since I was like, since far as I remember, I was 6. So I'm from Puerto Rico. So our house, I live in the north coast of Puerto Rico, about 35 minutes west from San Juan. So the airport, the pattern, all the planes flew over my house all the time. Yeah. So I just like I sat there, and when Roosevelt Roads used to be open back in the day, man, they have a bunch of planes flying over. I mean, they have the A6, they have the A7s, and they have sometimes the Tomcats fly over. Then they have the F-16 flying over. Sometimes you can see the F-16 with the afterburners and see, I mean, they're flying so low. They probably fly over like 3,000, 4,000 feet over my house. So I was able to see them and kind of like build a fascination for aviation since I was a little kid. So I always have a deep appreciation for pilots because, I mean, I always want to be that. I never did it. I guess it's on my own demise because I never kind of like went 110%.
You can still learn how to fly, man. There's nothing stopping you.
I'm good with DCS.
That's good enough.
That's good enough for me. That's good enough. Yeah, that's fine. So we're gonna start whenever you're ready. Yeah. Hey, welcome to the X-Ray Podcast. Today in episode number 31st, and celebrating that we are over the 3,000 subscriber mark on YouTube. I find out this morning about it. I look up on my algorithm and I was like, hey, we over the hump. So we are over the hump. Finally, now our next milestone will be the 4,000. So we're getting there. But today's guest is TR Matson, aka Wombat, a regular guest on the Mover and Gunky podcast that I watch Mondays. For those that like their podcast, is transmitted Monday 8 p.m. Typically on Mondays. Yeah, I had Mover last time, and he's a fascinating gentleman right there. He's very, very talented. Yeah, he's very talented, and also TR Matson is a Navy pilot, author of 2 books. I'm about to show you the 2 books for those people out there. This is one of his books, Vegas Flight and Treason. Which one came out first, Matson?
Treason Flight was the first one.
Treason.
The initial, and then Vengeance
Flight. Yeah. So I'm going to stop the sharing screen. We're going to go back to this sharing screen in a bit, but I would like to discuss with Wombat, what motivate you to pursue the aviation in the Navy?
So it's funny because a lot of people. Thanks for having me, by the way. I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you. I mean, I'm honored. Yeah.
Aviation's interesting because I've been doing it now for some odd years. I've been in aviation in various facets, and most people have this amazing story. You were just telling me a story about how you were got into aviation and seeing the planes and all that. And it's interesting because I didn't really have that. I had no real direction when I was a kid. I basically didn't do well in my first year of college. It's probably the nicest way to put it. Did pretty poorly. The school kind of asked me to leave. I transferred to Texas A&M at Galveston and met a guy, random day in the ROTC unit. And he told me, he said, he goes, "What do you want to do in the Navy?" And I was like, "Heck, man, I don't know. I just want a job." and he's like, "What about flying airplanes?" And I was like, "The Navy has airplanes?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Let's give that a shot." And I went after it. And that was pretty much it. Although, to be honest with you, where it started was about a year prior to that. I transferred down there and I walked onto that campus and I was 325 pounds. I mean, wow. I had partied. I had no direction my first year of college. I mean, I was a mess. And, when you go to a school like that, there's a lot of organizations that are trying to get you to join their organization and stuff like that. And the ROTC unit was one of them. And so I talked to them and it seemed interesting. So a few days later, I went over to their office and I talked to the lieutenant who's in charge of the unit. I mean, and I think of it now, this kid walking in 325 pounds, just a mess. And I tell him I want to be an officer in the Navy. And he was polite. He was doing his job. But when I walked out of the office, right before the door closed, I heard him laughing. Right behind my back, he was laughing at me. And I walked out and I stood outside that office for a minute and it really hit me hard. And then the door, probably about 30 seconds later, the door opens and this chief petty officer walks out. Never forget him. He walks up to me. He goes, "Son, screw that guy." He goes, "You want to be an officer in the Navy? Do it. Who's he?" And I was like, "I don't know, Chief. He's probably right." And he goes, "But what if he's wrong?" And it kind of hit me. It's giving me chills right now, actually, talking about it. And I focused that year so hard on losing weight and focusing on something and focusing on a goal. I came back my second year at Texas A&M, and I ran the whole physical training program for all the cadets in this pre-summer program. Lost all the weight, got in great shape, and I went from there. So that was the start. And then I meet this guy who says that there's planes in the Navy, and I go, "Well, hell, let's go for it." Mm-hmm. And once I had my sights on that goal with the win of losing the weight and doing all that, I was unstoppable at that point, but the problem is that wasn't the last thing that tripped me up in my career by any means. The people that know me well know that it was nonstop adversity. People were constantly telling me, "No, you can't do it. You're too big. You're too dumb. You're too slow." And for some reason, that one win is what caused me to go for it. So here I am.
So just dialing back a little bit, how do you develop your physical training? Like day one, what do you do on day one or losing weight? What do you do?
So the first thing I did, now luckily I'm pretty sure this chief petty officer was either a Navy SEAL. I can't remember, which is funny because I didn't have the education on the Navy, but he was either a Navy SEAL or he worked with them. I mean, he was a hard man. He was an old school chief petty officer, the ones that you respect.
Right.
And he basically told me, he's like, "I'll give you 3 things you need to do to get in shape." And I was like, "All right." He's like, "If you do these 3 things, it's the key." He goes, "Stop eating." And I go, "Well, how much?" He goes, "Everything that you think is good, stop. It's not good for you." He goes, "Get up every morning and run." He goes, "If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. I don't care. Do it for an hour." And then he goes, "In the afternoon, go hit the weights." And I go, "Well, what should I lift?" He goes, "I don't care." He goes, "Where you're at 325.
Anything works. Yeah, anything. Yeah."
He goes, "But the only thing that's going to work is consistency." He goes, "Don't drink, don't eat garbage food, and do cardio in the morning and lift in the afternoon." And I did that. And it worked. And I mean, there's been times I've struggled with it. You know, I mean, life
Right.
hits you, right? I mean, food, booze, everything's real easy to be a crutch when you're going through something hard. But I always go back to that. It's like lock the food down, work out, get a little cardio in, and pump some iron. And it works. So it sucked, but it worked.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like that's what I tell my son. Like life is a trap because they give you the easy way out all the time. Give you the easy way out, and you cannot fall into those pitfalls because if not, you're gonna be back at square zero. You know, back in the beginning. So that's a very, very. Sometimes you need that push.
Oh yeah,
you know, and
this is it. I mean, he changed my life. You know, and I wish I was still in touch with the guy. He, other than my parents, he was the biggest influence on where I'm at today, without even realizing it. And you know, you fast forward. I do another 2 years at that school. I'm at the top of my game, and it's time for my pre-commissioning physical.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is just to be an officer in the Navy.
That's not even counting.
This has nothing to do
school
with aviation. This is just to go be commissioned.
Just to get in the door. Yeah.
And I failed it.
What happened?
The paperwork comes back from the Navy, and they go, "You're disqualified for 2 reasons." Okay. And I look at the reason, and one of them was I had an 1/8 of an inch underbite. That was a disqualifier. The other one was my weight was too much for my height. Now I was within the body fat standards.
Okay.
But I was on their chart. I was too heavy. And I was dejected, man. I've been doing this for 3 years, working my butt off. Right? And same chief. He was getting ready to leave the unit. Comes up to me, he goes, "We're gonna fight it." And I was like, "Chief, it's over, man. This is it." And he goes, "No, we're gonna fight it." He goes, "Look at what the Navy is saying." And he pulls out the pubs, right? A good chief knows how to get in the books and use the books against the establishment, right? He goes, "The only thing it says about an underbite is that to make it a disqualifier is that it has to be so egregious you can't eat." I go, "Okay." He goes, "So look at what the Navy is telling you." He goes, "Your underbite is supposedly so bad you can't eat, yet you're overweight." He goes, "It doesn't make any sense." He goes, "I don't see you walking around here with milkshakes all day long." Like, he goes, "We're going to fight it." And we did. They made a whole mold in my mouth, sent it off to the Navy. They were like, "Yeah, you're fine." So it goes to Mover. You know, you've listened to him. He does the make him tell you no. I mean, so many times I had to do that. So, yeah.
So they disqualify you for 1/8 of an inch, and oh my God! I mean,
Yep.
let me tell you a little backstory of myself. I was a recruiter. I did recruiting in the Army for about a couple of years, and we have a first sergeant that he was pretty good on the books, and oh yeah, he was like, I tell him my issues, like, "Hey, this is what's going on." He's like, "Give me the paperwork," and he look it up, like look for reasons, stuff like that. Man, he pull out his computer. "Hey, cite this. Go back to maps and get it." And next day he was bam, sworn. I'm like, "How the heck you did it?" It's like, "It's right here." Because it's ambiguous. It's like regulation is very, very, I would say I would take, well, I'm not in the Army no more, but I would say the Army or any regulation is basically how you see it. It's like a law. It's how you perceive it. You know what I mean? So, so if they perceive they don't like you for some reason, they use it against you. And
Oh yeah.
that's basically what they told you. Like, oh, 1/8 of an inch, or he cannot eat.
Yep.
I mean, this
That
is
didn't fit the mold of what somebody in the Navy thought was your typical pilot.
so. You think? Do you think that was a reason of it? Like
I don't know if it was that.
they were protecting the
Just
core or something. You
I don't
know,
know if they were protecting the image or
Right.
if it was just a situation where they couldn't see the forest through the trees. You know what I mean? Like they just look at their numbers and they're like, "Sorry, that's what you got." And it's like, well, hold on a second. Like, let's look at the big picture here. And this guy's qualified. Look what he's done. He's got the recommendations. That same lieutenant who laughed at me recommended me. I turned him, right? I mean, the same guy who thought there's no way.
Right.
So I think sometimes any establishment, any organization, it doesn't matter if we're military, a civilian corporation, it doesn't, I mean, your family dynamics, sometimes we get blinded by things.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if somebody doesn't fit the mold of what they've seen 1,000 times, I think sometimes that it raises flags. They're like, whoa, 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 this guy's different. You know, this girl's different. What are we doing here? Do we want them to come in and shake this up? You know, and the machine, the tendency is no. They want to keep status quo. But the reality, in my opinion, is it takes those people that'll shake things up to actually grow. And that's the only way. So,
yeah, it sometimes it's like that. It's just a perception. You know, they want to keep an image or the status quo, whatever the case may be.
yeah.
And kind of blind their judgment on what they're supposed to do. It's not in the army. Sometimes it's private corporations. It happened all over the place. So so that took you're already hitting bumps before you even get into the door. And after you talked to the Perry chief officer, did they got you in after that? That you were able to just process through the pipeline?
Yep. Yeah. So I, with that, I got my pre-commissioning physical, got approved. And then graduated, got commissioned, went off to flight school, had to do physicals there, which I passed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got sent to Air Force primary flight training as a joint training venture. And that's where I actually met Gonki. We've known each other forever. And I wish I could sit here. Well, you know what? I don't. I can say I wish I could sit here and tell you that that's where the struggles ended, but I don't think I'd be who I am if they ended there. I had never flown an airplane before at all. Most of or if not all, the students with me had already gotten their private pilot's license. I never did. My dad was an auto mechanic, man. I grew up working on cars, you know, and so I had no idea what I was doing. But what I did find out is I get massively airsick. I mean,
wow,
like violently airsick. So every flight until my solo at Vance Air Force Base, I threw up. And sometimes I'd be able to complete the flight, sometimes I wouldn't. But every time. And the way the Air Force works is you throw up, you go back to base. They send you over to physiology. They put you in this chair. They spin you around to desensitize you, which really I think they were just trying to make me empty all of the contents of my body because I would just throw up again. And this story, it's funny. I've told this story a lot of times because I think it really talks to the never giving up mentality. Is I was going for my check ride, my safe for solo, and I walked down. And in the Air Force, it's different than the Navy. You go to a separate squadron, and they do the check ride. So you walk down. There's a student. I'm nervous. I'm sweating. Got my training jacket with all. I mean, it's thick with all of the incidents of me throwing up. And I presented to this Air Force captain, and he goes, "You got some issues, air sickness, huh?" And I'm like, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "If you have to give me the controls today, you fail." He goes, "Because tomorrow, if you're by yourself, there's nobody to give the controls to." And on paper, I get it. But in reality, when I'm flying solo, I'm not going to do anything that makes me sick, right? So, but I get it. I get where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So we go out there, and he makes me do a spin right off the bat. I don't throw up. He goes, "Give me another one." I feel fine. I'm like, huh. He goes, "Give me an inverted spin," which the T-37 at the time could do that. And it was a very violent spin maneuver. Feel fine. He almost, because he sits right next to me, right? I mean, his head is like here, and our shoulders are touching, you know. And he almost looked dejected. because he was like, well, I guess we're going to have to do the full check ride. So he goes, go ahead and set up for a loop. Okay. And as I'm pulling into this loop, just put the G on the jet. I'll never forget this. And it hits me. I know my symptoms. I know when I'm going to get sick. But I had a plan. I worked with Gonky. We had a plan. So I had a sick bag in my pocket. I start pulling through this loop. There's a little eyebrow vent right here in the T-37. I pull out the bag. I flip it there. It opens. I'm upside down. I drop my mask and I throw up. Still pulling through this loop. This guy's just staring at me. I finish, pull out the bottom. I stuff the bag back in my pocket, throw my mask back on. And I just fly straight and level. He's just staring at me.
I get that picture, you throwing up and pulling a loop.
Upside down.
Upside down.
And after about 60 seconds, he goes, man, I have no idea what your loop just looked like. That was unreal. He's like, you passed. Do whatever you want. Never got sick in a plane again after that day. I don't know. It's just nerves or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people get nervous and they start acting weird, out of character, but it's not what's going on. It's basically what makes them nervous. And it happens. So let's dial back a little bit. So how was your, you're good. Cause I just want to get your feeling because I want to live through you. What do you feel the first time that you were strapped onto the plane? Like when you first sat down in the cockpit for the first time, because I just forget about simulation. Simulation is a different ball game. Like first time you sat down and you put your seatbelt and you put, you went through all the check stuff and what was your feeling? Because I mean, never flown the plane. I just can't imagine what's going on through your mind. And can you take me through that?
I think, and it's no different, whether it was that first T-37, the first time I flew the Hawkeye or the Hornet, or honestly, even the first time I flew an airliner, right? I mean, it's all the same. The simulators that we have are unreal. They're so good. I mean, they're insanely good. The procedures prepare you, the muscle memory, to know what to do. But what they can't prepare you for is just the brutal assault of smell and sound and vibration and all that. And that is so distracting. I mean, it's unbelievably distracting to have all that. I mean, the mix of jet fuel and hydraulics and everything else, like it assaults your senses. And the reason why in aviation, good aviation training, you focus and you repeat and you over and over and over and over and over the procedures is because you have to break through that. Otherwise, you'd be paralyzed. Every person in the world, if you just gave them 2 sims, hey, this is how you start the plane, go out there, they'd be paralyzed because all that other stuff would just come in. But the training and especially at the time, the military training is so good because it's repetition, repetition, repetition. So you can fight through that, but it's always there, and fast forward to the end of my active duty time in the Navy, I was the head LSO, landing signals officer for the training command. And every time I'd land on the ship for the first time, it had been, 2-3 months since I've been out there. It's a beautiful, clear day. And I'm one of the first ones out there to get up on the LSO platform. And you open that canopy and it's that same assault. Like, it's awesome. Like, I miss the sights and smells almost more than I miss the flying. Almost. There's a couple things in the Hornet I really miss. I mean, it's a pretty fun plane to fly, but it's all of that stuff that is aviation, at its core. That's where it hits you inside and it never leaves you. And it, like I said, there hasn't been a plane in my career that hasn't done that to me. And it's just, I got hooked. I'm still hooked. I still do it. I go hop in an Airbus now. I just did it yesterday.
Oh, you did?
And I smell it, Oh,
yeah. I can just...
It's different, but...
So you flying the airliners now? That's what you do now? Okay. You saw the 320, the Airbus.
Yeah, so I'm a captain on the, type rated on we have the 19s, 20s, 21s, and 21 Neos. So 4 different variants, but they're Airbuses.
Those
the same.
they're the same pretty much. They,
Pretty close. I mean,
Yeah.
I joke that like the 319 is kind of the sporty version,
Mhm.
and the 321 Neo's the Mercedes, the Cadillac version, it's
Yeah.
just big and comfortable. But they're at the end of the day, operating them, they're all the same.
They're the same. Yeah. So we were talking offline, and you told me you were in 3 different carriers, the Nimitz.
It's primarily did the Nimitz for my E2 time.
Oh,
I did
okay.
3 deployments on the Nimitz. It was a busy set of orders when I was an E2 guy. This was, early 2000s, 2005, 6, 7, 8, that time frame. We were deploying like crazy.
Oh yeah, that was the height of the GWAT, global war on terrorism.
We were there. I mean, it was, I think I did the math once. We were based out of Point Mugu, California. And I had 39-month orders to that squadron. Wow. That was my total set of orders. I was physically in Point Mugu less than 10 months. I mean, we were just gone all the time. But that was all Nimitz. She was my first ship. I love the Nimitz. And then when I transitioned to fly F-18s, we did workups and did deployments on the Stennis. So, and then when I went on to be a training command LSO, we just pick whatever carriers around and available, we would go out to them and use them. So I think I have traps on almost all of them, except for maybe the Ford that are still in use. So you see, but they're all the same. I mean, they have their own little idiosyncrasies, but they're all the same.
Yeah. So in your experience that you've been, how long you were in the Navy for?
I did 13 years active duty and then 7 years in the reserves.
Okay. And you started what year roughly? 2000?
I got commissioned in 2002.
2002. And you took first flight on?
It was early 2003. So I got commissioned late 2002, and then it was early 2003. I was flying the T-37 in Enid, Oklahoma.
Oh, you were in Oklahoma? I was stationed in Oklahoma at that time. Yeah, I was in Fort.
Rough time.
Yeah,
man. I was as far away from an ocean as you could find.
oh yeah. So you were in Shepherd Air Force Base or no?
No, it was Enid.
Oh, you were in Enid? Oh, okay.
Vance, yeah.
You were Vance. Yeah, I was stationed at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Oh my God. Yeah, I hated that place. I mean, I don't miss the people. I met good people down there. I still got friends in Fort Sill. I live in north of Houston, but yeah, I hate that place. I don't know. Yeah. Fort Sill, man, when it's windy in Oklahoma, it's horrible. I mean,
oh yeah, there's nothing to stop it.
There's nothing. I mean, it freeze your ears, and oh my God, I remember spending time in the field for about 2 weeks. Like, oh, we're gonna go cold weather training. I'm like, oh my God, here we go. We are out there. There is no wind on post. Once you go to the training site, it's like 50-mile-an-hour wind.
Young man's game.
I know, right? So I don't know. It was, good memories though, but I hate the place. For some reason, I hate Fort Sill. And the funny part is I went everywhere, but I always came back to Fort Sill. It's
funny.
Yeah, I know. I did Korea. Oh, where's my returning station? Oh, Fort Sill. I'm like, really? Then went back to Korea again, and then I'm going to Fort Bragg. Let me go to, Fort Benning, Georgia, whatever. They're like, no, Fort Sill. And I did recruiting, went to Puerto Rico finally. And then I begged, please send me somewhere besides Fort Sill. Okay, you're going to Fort Hood. I'm like, oh my God. make it worse.
You knew you had to go back to appreciate all the other places.
Oh, yeah. And then on my last duty station, where am I supposed to go? Oh, no, go back to Fort Sill. I'm like, so I started my career at Fort Sill and I finished at Fort Sill. So it's funny. So I know you pain when you went to Enid. So yeah. I mean, they used to, if I'm correct, they used to land at Fort Sill from time to time.
They might have been. I don't,
because I seen them because we got a strip. They used to do touch and goes all the time.
Yeah.
So we always see the T-37s, T-38s, just touch and goes. Yeah. It's a long road on Shepherd Road. It's like right next to. I mean, you could see it. Yeah, I'll be pulling gas, and you see the plane just touch and go all the time. So, so it's fun.
It never stops.
Yeah, training never stops. It's fun to watch, though. It's fun to watch. So you were So you were getting your wings, and I was deployed back then. We deployed when the war started, 2003. Yeah, sucks. It sucks. So you went. Do you flew over Iraq or in that time frame?
We did. So when I finally got through flight school and all that, because it takes a while.
How long it took you?
It was over 2 years to get to my fleet squadron.
Wow.
Because you have to do primary, which I did in T-37s. Then I had to go down to Corpus Christi, fly the T-44 for my multi-engine prop time. Then down to Kingsville to do T-45s to carrier qual. Then out to Virginia to actually learn how to fly the E-2, which is nothing like any of the previous 3 planes that I had flown. And then as soon as I carrier qualled on the E-2, they said, congrats, your grades were good enough. You're deploying immediately to meet your squadron in Australia. So, 2 days after I had finished, I'm on a civilian plane across the world to meet my squadron on a combat deployment. So, we flew over Iraq, Afghanistan on all 3 of those tours. Global war on terrorism, all that type of stuff that we're doing, and Iraqi freedom, all that. And it was a busy time. So we had a lot of flight time.
Yeah, it was. I believe 2005, 2009 was the height of the global war on terrorism. I mean, a lot of people getting deployed 3 or 4 times in like 5 years. It was crazy.
We were working. That's for sure. There was no shortage of flights. So it was busy.
Yeah, I remember those days. They were good times and sometimes not good times. I was seeing when I was deployed. We drove. Just a quick story. We drove through the high wall of hell in Iraq, in Kuwait, because we were stationed in Kuwait. We pre-assembled and then we drove through to Iraq. So we drove by, and it's a graveyard. It is. I mean, you saw in the pictures. I remember used to seeing the pictures back in 1990 when the Gulf War happened. When we actually drove through it, tanks still up there and all this stuff. So I was in shock. So
yeah, it's crazy. Like, yeah, I think it happens for everybody when you, I don't care, enlisted officer, aviation, on the ground, like at some point you're going to be faced with war and it's going to be personal. It changes you. It's just different. It's hey, this ain't a video game anymore, man. Like, this is real. There's no reset.
It's crazy.
It is.
It is. So we've now that you flew the E2. I'm gonna show the audience here because some people have no idea what is an E2. They're like, they're like, what the heck is an E2? Like a private? No. It is a.
That's funny. That's exactly what I said when I selected them. I'm like, what's an E2? What is this thing?
Yeah. So let me see, because I just lost you real quick. I don't know. Yeah. So that's an E2 for those that, people watching it. That's an E2 landing, and the cable snap. Look at that. Ooh. That was bad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was bad.
3 pilots assigned to the screw.
Yeah, that was bad. So
those guys, in my mind, absolute heroes in the community. Their piloting skill is why that plane flew away.
You think so?
100%.
Then can you abandon? Can you just like?
No ejection seats in a Hawkeye.
There is no ejection seat.
No, because the NFOs in the back would be under the dome, so they couldn't eject.
Oh.
Yeah. Now we had ditching hatches, So above the pilots,
Mm-hmm.
there was a handle and a hatch would open. And then, so we each had one. And far back NFO had a ditching hatch that they would actually take out and stow whenever we took off or landed. And all three would have to go out that hatch.
Really?
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to, I mean, if you want to evacuate, how long did it take you to just unstrap and get back there?
So every year, as part of our annual check ride, we would have to simulate bailing out because we could bail out too. We had parachutes built into the seat. So you would de-rig the seat, get up. And man, I mean, not being a small guy, you know, you'd put this thing on and you would turn and go down the hallway that you walk through.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, my shoulders would be hitting the sides all the way down, you know. And, but you can make it. It's just, but it's not going to be quick. It's not like a fighter where you just pull the handle and you're out of there before you even think about it. So it was the E2 and the C2 at the time were the only two that didn't have ejection seats at the ship. So that changes your whole perspective on things.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you, we trained a lot to ditching off a catapult. You know, if we got a soft catapult shot, just flying straight ahead and ditching. It's not likely going to be a survivable thing, and we knew that. When you become an aircraft commander in a plane like that, you know that if it gets real bad, you may be the one that has to hold the plane steady while everybody else gets out, and you may not make it. And actually, a friend of mine had that happen. And I wrote, you know, my books are fiction books, but there's some true stories or fictionalized versions of stories. And in book number 2, I pay tribute to him because he was coming back to the ship. They had a prop that failed to feather and they couldn't hold altitude. And he basically let everybody else bail out and he ditched and he didn't make it. So it's
sorry about that.
It was the reality of flying the plane.
Right. So okay, you pay in Vision's flight. That's what you pay tribute to him. Yeah. So yeah, talk to me about your 2 books. I'm gonna share that again so people can see it.
So they're, you know, I've read a lot. I like aviation now. There's some great aviation history books out there, you know, and things like that. But nobody's ever told a story about a Hawkeye, right? I mean, it's always fighters, and I get it. Fighters are fun, man. Everybody likes it. Look at that plane. Like, it's hard to love that plane. That thing's ugly, right? You know? So I wanted to write a book with my knowledge and experience that's centered around the Hawkeye. I grew up, you know, reading Flight of the Intruder and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
I always thought, you know, Stephen Kuntz with the A6. I mean, it was such an awesome plane. I mean,
Yeah, that's a good movie though.
and, oh yeah, it is. So, so that was the goal. It was just to write a fictionalized thriller centered around a Hawkeye pilot. I knew how to be a Hawkeye pilot. I know what that is. So I just had to come up with the thriller side of it. And then, it's, you know, I just wanted to tell that story. And I joked that I said it with Mover and I said some other podcasts before it got published that I had 2 goals. One, I was going to tell a story you'd never heard before. And 2, I was going to make the Hawkeye sexy. And I think I've accomplished both.
You came, yeah, you did both. Okay,
so
I need to get me that book.
then, you know, and then Vengeance Flight was the sequel to it. You know, I was surprised how well people took to it. And I said, well, what else do I know? I'm like, well, I flew fighters. You know, let's dive into that a little bit. And so you follow Rattler through his career of transitioning to fly F-18s, and then more nefarious stuff happens, and then it kind of goes into a whole nother world. And that's where the 3rd book, which is being written now, will come into play to finish the trilogy.
So when that 3rd book is coming out, roughly?
It's a good question. It's a good question. It's been tough. You know, life gets you. You got a job, you got kids. This whole social media side of things has taken off way more than I ever it to. On the other side of things, not just on the fictional book stuff, but on the never down, never out and that type of stuff, you know, more the, I hate to say motivational side because that's cliche, but you know what I mean? That side of it. So it's been tough. And the other part of it is life was pretty good for me. You know, I mean, I had a good job. I was doing what I want, a great family. It's tough when you have a very happy, comfortable life to sit in a room and write a dark story. You know, you have to turn your brain over to that, because the one thing I've always said, and I truly believe, is when I publish a book, it's not about the money you spend to buy that book, because you can make more money. We can all make more money, but you spend time reading it. I can't give you your time back. So I put a lot of emphasis on this. A lot of authors will go out and they're like, I'm going to publish book after book after book, right? Just rapid fire to get my name out there. And that's fine, but I don't think it's as personal. You know, I'm telling you a story. It's no different than if we're at a coffee shop, a bar, or whatever, when you're reading one of my books. And your time to sit there, just like it is right now, is massively valuable. I can't give you back the 45 minutes we've been talking, right? Like I could refund you a book price. I'm not going to, let's be honest, but I could, but I can't give you that time back. So
Right.
I think it's, you know, it's not fair to the reader to just throw out stuff. And a lot of people do that. So between life being good and busy and that emphasis, it's taken some time, but I want this story to really bring the whole thing together and take it home. And it's there. It's just, I've got to get it good before it goes live. So I don't have a date yet. But I've got a plan. It's coming. So, and you know, I have more at this phase of the book. I have more of the other stuff already figured out, the title, the book cover that I want, things like that, than I ever have in the past. So I'm excited about it. It's just now I've got to finish the hard part of getting the story on paper.
So what do you learn from those two books that you already wrote? What do you learn that it kind of help you, like you say, facilitating, you know, the cover book and the know-how? How that help you out on the third book?
I learned that nobody cares about your product more than you do. And you have to be very careful with who you bring into your circle, because that book has got my name, right? I mean, doesn't have anybody else's. And the product represents me. So it's easy. There's a lot of people out there that want to help you get a book published for a cut, right? They want to, I got your best interest in mind. They don't. They've got their best interest in mind. That's human nature. So it's important to keep control of all those things. And both of those books, every facet of them, digital, print, audio, I own it all. And so that to me was extremely important, because it's my representation of me. So, you know, I can tell the story the way I want to tell it. And that's something, and I know Mover, you guys talked about this too, but a lot of people, you know, really like traditional publishing, and hey, that might be good for somebody else. Yeah. Right. But for me, I'd rather put in the legwork. Right. I'd rather, it goes back to that year at Texas A&M. I'd rather get up, stop eating, run, lift weights, and put in the work. Because at the end of the day, I can look myself in the mirror and go, I did my best. It's the same thing, right? It's just a different product. So I think taking ownership of your project, whatever that is, whatever your goal is in life, you know, whether it's to lose weight, whether it's to write a book, whether it's to learn how to fly or fix a relationship or whatever you're doing, until you take the ownership yourself, you don't have a chance. But once you do, watch out. That's really,
Yeah. That is true. That is true. That's what I tell my kids all the time. Like you have to own your destiny. You have to own it. Because life is what you make out of. You know what I mean? If you
oh yeah.
if you don't want to do nothing, you ain't gonna do nothing in life.
No, life will let you do nothing.
Right.
That's for sure. I have no problem with that.
Yeah. I believe what you're saying is totally true. I can relate to that. Because me, I'm an introvert. I don't like to talk a lot. My circle of friends are like two people, and I'm kind of like I'm to myself. And I told my wife, like, I'm going to do a podcast, and I'm going to do whatever, public speaking. And she gave me that look, like, you're not like that. you coming out of your comfort zone. I'm like, well, I have to. I have no choice. Because nobody gonna know me. Nobody gonna know what I can bring to the table. So I have to come out of the closet, quote unquote.
Yeah. Well, and I think the more you do it, the more you realize most of us are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not the life of the party.
Yeah.
Never have been.
Me neither.
Well, maybe that first year of college too much, but got me nowhere. But I'm not. And I'll tell you, the gut check, the day treason flight, because I had done some writing and I have some small articles on my website just to kind of give a background or whatever, or tributes to friends I've lost or things like that. But that gut check of when it goes live and now you're out there. I mean, you're essentially naked to the world, man. Like,
yeah.
Everybody. And trust me, I get them all. I get the 5 stars, like, holy hell, this is the greatest story ever, all the way to this is the biggest waste of my time. And, I've watched other authors. Jack Carr has one of my favorite things he did. He did a YouTube, just a short one, where he reads reviews, right? And this has always stuck with me. And if I ever, I've talked to him online. If I ever meet him in person, I'll tell him this, because it's hilarious how much it resonated with me. He read this review. He's a very detailed fiction author. Very detailed.
Yeah.
And he reads a review. And the first review is like, for his book, it's like, far too detailed, way too into the weeds, blah, 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 blah. Too deep, no good. Next one, not enough detail, should go into it more, and it's like, it's the epitome of life, right?
Right.
You're never going to make everybody happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as soon as you can realize that, and you can focus on making you happy and your goals, that's when you're truly unstoppable. And I wish I had learned that earlier in life, but in a way, I'm happy I didn't, because it's resonated so hard now that it's, look, write the 1-star review. Like, that's fine. If that makes you feel good in your mom's basement because you're angry at how I wrote a book, that's fine.
Yeah.
You're not going to affect me. But because I know for every bad review, I've connected with real people that needed help that I can help, whether that's getting into aviation, whether that's other struggles they're dealing with. And you know what? There's not a review in the world that can make up for how good that is to really be able to affect other human beings. We live in this world that's so convoluted and clouded with all the garbage that we just get inundated with. And at the end of the day, we're good people for the most part. We just want to help people for the most part. But that's not an agenda, right? That's not good news, unfortunately. So, you just got to do what's good for you, take care of your circle, and work your butt off. Never stop working.
Yeah, nowadays we are living in the twilight zone. That's the way I see it. It's like it turns upside down, and we are like, I talk to my wife a lot, and I told her, like, baby, did our planet went through a portal of, like a second reality? This is another, the dimension colluded.
There'd be a reason for it, because my fear is that we didn't, and there's no logical reason for this.
It's not. Everything's upside down nowadays.
It's crazy. And, it's social media is a huge part of it, which is ironic, because with social media, you can do such good things, right? But it's also could be so toxic depending on how it's used. It's amazing. Like, it is such this weird tool out there I just try to do the best I can to make it good.
Yeah, social media can break you or make you. You know, it could break you mentally, physically, emotionally, or they can make you a millionaire and and be the best you can be.
And 100%.
Are you doing, well, now that we're talking about social media and engagement and stuff like that, are you doing any public speaking or speech or keynote?
It's interesting. I used to always look at that and be like, nah, it's not for me. I'm nothing, right? Like, who wants to listen to me talk? And at the end of last year, my wife and I decided that we were going to have a professional come in, revamp the website. Sarah, she did a fantastic job.
It looks good.
I love the website.
I'm gonna share what we're talking so people can take a good look at the website.
When I saw the draft of it, it blew me away because I'm like, who is this?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, that's you. That's your career. And I'm like, holy crap, man. I don't know what it is, you know, and she helped with all the merchandise and all that stuff because that's what people were asking for, right? So they want patches and t-shirts and coins and all sorts of stuff. And so it's all linked there and it's great. And at the end of last year, she's like, so when are you going to let me get you into public speaking? And I'm like, no, it's not for me. Nobody wants that. I'm like, I'm nothing. You know, I'm just a guy. I'm a guy that struggled through a bunch of stuff and somehow came out the other side, right? And there's probably struggles ahead that I have to deal with. And she goes, you'd be great at it. And I'm like, I don't know. Well, then fast forward, you know, she actually has a podcast she's starting and she interviewed me and we had a great conversation for an hour. And at the end, she's like, seriously, when is the public speaking going to happen? Mm-hmm. And I go, I don't know. I'm working on book 3. And then I'm also working on I need to fix some of those videos. Apparently book 4, which is not going to be a fiction book. It's going to be more on the never down, never out mentality. So I'm working on stuff. I'm like, I can't see public speaking. I just don't think that people want to hear me. And she laughed and she goes, we'll see. And I go, look, where it's at right now is God's going to have to put me in a position where he's like, hey man, I need you doing this. And on my professional career, he kind of did. He changed some things up in a good way. And I have a lot more free time now. And so I texted her and I said, so what about that public speaking? And she was so excited. She's like, yes, we're in. Let's do this. So it's in the works. I'm cautiously dipping a toe into it, but I want to make sure I do it right. Because again, that's, you know, as you know, with the internet, it's forever. So if I go out there and screw it up, it's out there. So now the nice part now is I've done enough podcasts. I've been on the Mover and Donkey show far too many times that it helps because I'm more comfortable speaking and doing things. So that makes a big difference. So I do think with the, you know, never down, never out, I think can help people. And if I can help people, then it's worth me doing it. That's the real thing. You know,
everybody needs a hero. You know, sometimes you have to become that hero for somebody. I mean, like right now, it's like probably this podcast, people will see it now, or probably like the algorithm kick it up 6 months from now, you know, and people see it. It happens. I got videos with 2 views, and when I look it up, now they're picking up. I got like 150, 300 like a day. I'm like, it wasn't relevant at the time, but later on, the algorithm kick it up somehow. But it's always, you have to always put yourself out there. And I really appreciate that you kind of taking that step forward. Because I was looking into your website and I see public engagement, and I was like, speaking engagement, I was like, oh, so when he gonna start doing it? You know what I mean? But I didn't see anything. I didn't see any, you know, pictures of it or videos, and that was like in the back of my head, like I'm gonna ask him about that because I know he's probably work on it, and I'm happy that you are taking on, because I never speak in public. My wife has. She has experience of public speaking, and she's very, very open. She grab a mic and she just talks for days, you know what I mean? She's very
sure.
And I told my wife, like, baby, if I would have 10% of your ability to talk to people, I would be the next Sean Ryan, next Joe Rogan out there. But
Oh yeah.
but how now we're talking about that a little bit. How do you feel yourself right now? Like say somebody hire you to be a keynote or public speaker for a crowd of 1,000. How confident are you right now to do it?
My only question is why only 1,000?
Mm.
I mean, honestly, it doesn't make a difference to me if I'm talking to my son when he comes home and I'm trying to teach him something, or my daughter, although she doesn't listen, she's really young, or I'm talking to you on here, or I'm making a 60-second Instagram reel about what's going through my mind, or I'm at Madison Square Garden talking to the masses.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter because it's personal. And the thing in life that a lot of people don't do is they don't make things personal, right? You always were told, hey, don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. No. Take it personal. This life is 1,000% personal. It's your life, right? So you have to take every moment personally. When I sit down with my 6-year-old boy and I'm teaching him something because of how he acted or a problem he has, or a play didn't go well at baseball or something, that's personal because he is going to remember that. I remember the stories and the things my dad taught me. And so it doesn't change just when it's him or it's 1,000 people or 10,000 people, or the internet is infinite, right? I mean, when I do a reel, anybody can see it, right? I don't have to buy a ticket because the internet's free. So I don't have a problem. I don't think that, I haven't done it, but I have spoken in front of other things, not, necessarily publicly. And I don't, the nervousness isn't there because I'm not looking at it as a numbers thing. I'm looking at it as a conversation with an individual. And I think when you're truly passionate about something, and I can feel it just even talking to you now, that passion drives you. It doesn't matter. The world can be on fire around you. If you're passionate about what you're doing, speaking, you're unstoppable. And I go back to that story about me thrown up upside down in a plane. The only difference after I landed on that flight than every other flight prior is I got control of my mind, right? And when you can control your mind, that is truly unstoppable. When you can, our brain, in my opinion, is the most powerful part of our body. I don't care how strong you are, how fast you are, how fast you could swim, run, doesn't matter. Lift 1,000 pounds. Brain's going to beat it. And if you can control it, and you can evict all those people that shouldn't be living in your brain rent-free.
Oh yeah.
You are unstoppable, man.
Yeah, you have to move forward. You remind me of when you mentioned that you were overweight and you fought through it. You remind me a person you probably know, David Goggins. He had the same issues, and he just his fuel was his passion is to prove people wrong.
Yep.
And that was like,
there's something to be said for that, man.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I didn't have it. I had a great childhood. I had both parents there. They were both hardworking parents that own their own business, and my sister and I never really wanted for anything. We weren't rich, but there was food on the table. There was toys at Christmas, Did I spend a lot of time in my dad's mechanic shop because they couldn't afford daycare and they needed to work? Hell yeah, I did. But I learned a lot too, I love cars for it and wrench on my cars and do all that. But I learned far more from them. But something happened when I left the nest, and I had some freedom. And I proved to myself that I hadn't accomplished anything. My parents did. Right. And just because my parents had accomplished stuff, that doesn't automatically mean I'm going to be successful. And I learned that hard my first year of college, my first semester. Hard. At that point in my life, I had never been lower. And I had a choice. And my choice was simple. I could choose a life like that. And you know what? Like we said before, life will let you be nothing. It doesn't care. This world's huge. There's billions of people. You're just a number, right? If you just want to slough through life and be sloppy and disgusting and do your thing and not accomplish anything, It will let you.
Yep.
But for some reason, something clicked, and that chief petty officer, there was something in his voice when he said, like, hell no, man, show him you can't. Who's he? Who's he? Right? Why are you going to dictate your outcome based on one thing? And what's funny is I never confronted that lieutenant when I got commissioned. But I bet if I had, and I said, hey, I heard you laughing, he'd probably feel horrible. But in reality, it was the greatest thing he could have done for me. Right. So it's the naysayers. It's the people that tell me. I mean, I've said it on Instagram, which is really my platform for, I don't, as much as people are telling me I should start a YouTube page, I have no desire. The work you guys put in is hard. I mean, people don't realize it, right? They think you sit here and talk for an hour and a half. It's done. It's a lot of work in the background. And, but one of the things I say a lot is, that negativity now, it fuels me. Like, oh, man, it's the highest octane jet fuel you can give me. You tell me that I don't fit into your organization or I'm not good enough to do something, watch out. Like, I want to thank you for saying that because I know at 4 a.m. when I have to get up and start hustling, you're not awake. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When you're sitting there talking trash about me, I know you're nice and comfy. And you're sleeping or you're sitting on the couch, and I love it. And yeah, I listen to Goggins a lot. I could his voice resonates with me, And one of the things I do now as part of my workout is I row a lot.
Oh, you do?
The flight docs have told me, rowing is a great exercise, right? Oh, yeah. It's low impact, full body, good cardio. I hate it. I hate it, man.
Everybody that I know hate it.
It sucks. You don't go anywhere. It is hard and you go nowhere. It is the worst exercise ever. But I'll sit there and, I'll put up the iPad and I'll put on YouTube videos, and it sounds cheesy. My wife's like, are you listening to more motivational talk? I'm like, yeah, because these people are right. This is the reality of life, right? I mean, I don't want to be sitting on this rower right now. It sucks. It's hot. Stinks. I'm not going anywhere. I'm watching the world outside a window, but I know what I do and it has nothing to do with the physical fitness benefits. Nothing. That's the funny part. I talked to my flight doc and he's like, man, physically it's great. And I'm like, I don't care about the physical. It's the mental, right? I'm doing something I don't like that's hard and I'm accomplishing it. That's far better.
Oh yeah.
Now, does it help that it's also healthy? Shit. It's controlling your mind. So yeah, I love it, man. All these guys, I soak it up. I can't get enough of their stuff because it's true. They've been through it. I haven't been a SEAL, right? I'm not going to be a Navy SEAL, so I could listen to that expert and learn from them. So
yeah, that's what I do when I go to the gyms from time to time, or I want to listen more motivational speak. I listen to Goggins. When I go to the gym, I listen to C.T. Fletcher. Oh yeah, so so I have to when I do stuff like that, I listen to other people. Sometimes you need that spark to ignite the fire. You don't need the fire, you just need a spark. Just a little bit. Just give and that's what I use. So it's same with this channel. A lot of people think they just talking to people, but in the behind the scene, I'm like working social media, editing. Finding new guests, talking to other people, sending emails, and most of the time I'm on my phone and my wife, she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm editing. Editing shorts or editing videos or cutting this, or YouTube took my video because I say something stupid and I'm appealing back. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm dealing with
a lot of work. I give you all a lot of credit because it is a thankless job that you'll probably never appreciate the people you actually affect because they may just watch it for 30 minutes, 30 seconds. And there might be something that's said on one of your shows from you or from a guest that just changes somebody's life. And you'll never know that. Yeah. But you're going to grind it out. You're going to put in all that work and you're going to have to do that. And the average person who doesn't know, I know it because I'm close with Mover and Donkey, right? And I hear what they have to do. The average person doesn't know that. They just assume we chat here for a little bit. Mm-hmm. You hit play and it's just out there, And some of them are that way. When they do the lives, that's a little different, But It's a lot of work, man. I mean, and it's never ending. So
Yeah, but yeah, you should start a channel. You know, motivational speak. You know, so
maybe
you should.
we'll see.
It's not. It's this, the beginning is not hard. Open the channel. It's not difficult. It's just like you're saying, grind it, keep improving, keep posting. That takes time. So if you have the resources, hire somebody. I highly encourage you hire one person that does it all. Editing, posting. It saves you a lot of time, because if not, you will be stuck in a computer for at least 6 hours a day. 6 hours.
I believe it.
I mean, me, I'm just off and on because I do homeschooling for my kids, and yeah, so it is. I'm like, sometimes I'm doing something, I let it go. I do breakfast, make sure they do their homework in the computer, come back, check on that, and then be like, okay, you guys off at noon. Let me go cook something for lunch or something, back in the computer. So that's my life. But hey, TR, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I mean, I wish we could keep talking. I know you're busy, so am I. So, but I really appreciate it. And I got my dog just on my side.
It's awesome.
Yeah, he don't want to leave me. I guess he want to go out. My studio, for people think I'm rich, I'm not. My studio is here in the garage. So this is only one side of the studio. So I got my little friend here. He just want to.
There you go.
Yeah, he just want to be pet. He just like on my side, just touching my leg. Right, Milo?
Keeping you grounded. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what
keeping you humble.
Yeah, that's what he does. He's just a little baby.
That's awesome.
So I really appreciate it, Matson. It's an honor to have you here. And
hey, thanks for having me.
And for you guys out there, you want to get his book, you can get it on his website. You have it in Amazon too?
It's on everything. So yeah, but the link's on the website, trmatson.com. That takes you everywhere. But yeah, it's on Amazon, every major thing. Audible, if you like audiobooks, it's out there.
Oh yeah, I like audiobooks. That's my favorite. I could listen when I'm driving. It's just like,
oh yeah.
The
Mike Dawson did the narration for both of them, and he is fantastic. I mean, his voice is awesome.
He's like a radio host.
Oh yeah.
Like Mike Rowe. I like Mike Rowe voice. You know, Mike Rowe. Man, I like his voice.
Oh yeah. It's worth, even if you don't buy the books, it's worth going on Audible and listening to the samples just to hear Mike Dawson tell the story. Fantastic. So, but yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's been a blast. I enjoy it.
Man, I enjoy it too, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. For you guys out there, thank you so much. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also share this video. And you can listen to us in Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and what else, Melo, that I forgot? Yeah, that one. So, what else? And Rumble. I'm in Rumble too. So, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Have a good one. Matson, thank you so much. Camilo.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye. See you in the next one. Let me cut this off, Camilo. Go. Let me stop this right.